June 21st, 2022 City Council meeting for the City of Temple Terrace to order. Welcome everybody. Remind everybody to turn off or silence your phone and/or other electronic devices, including us up here. I just got mine a second ago. And if you would please stand and join us with the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Heavenly Father, as we gather tonight to handle the business of our city, we give thanks for all the blessings that you have bestowed upon us each and every day. We ask for your guidance on this council to do the next right thing. Guide us on the decisions that we make, both large and small, that we will always do what is right and just. We ask for your grace on all of the employees of the city and the protection of our first responders who serve and protect our fellow citizens. We ask for these blessings in all the many different names as you are known, but in your most holy name we pray. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. Moving along, no recognitions or proclamations, presentations, appointments, the consideration of the minutes from the June 7th, 2022 City Council meeting. If the minutes are acceptable, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I move to approve the minutes.
Second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Persons wishing to be heard on items not listed on the agenda or items on the consent agenda. Council has agreed to a 30-minute time limit for all public comment to be continued at the end of the meeting if more time is needed. A 3-minute time limit is imposed on all comments from the public, and we ask the speakers to come to the podium, state your name and city of residence. During the public comment, the city manager and directors in attendance will make note of these items, and that all of your comments are taken seriously and will be followed up upon. I only at this point have one, Mr. Don Balabin. If you please come forward, sir. Welcome.
Yes, sir. My name is Don Balaban, and I live at 9410 Allenbrook Street, Temple Terrace. Lived there 37 years. I've been an active member in the past of Temple Terrace, and I still try to attend meetings when I can. I'm just a very busy person. But I wanted to touch on two topics. The first one is the crown jewel, as far as I'm concerned, of Temple Terrace, which is the rec center. Because of that rec center, I have probably relocated over 20 people into Temple Terrace because it's just no other community has a rec center like ours. And Corey and her crew does a great job there. I helped the first time getting grant money for that facility probably 25 years ago, and I've helped them in the past. But anyway, I wanted to see if it's possible for y'all to do a study and see if we can get our hours back to normal. We're still at COVID hours at the rec center. Monday through Friday, it shuts down at 8 o'clock. The number one reason we lose members at our rec center is because of the hours. As you know, most other gyms and stuff have a lot longer hours, and some of them don't close, and I don't expect that. But we used to be open till 9:20 and then 8:50, and now we shut down at 8 o'clock. Well, most people don't get home from work till about 6:30, sometimes 7 in traffic. They eat something, and they can't go to the gym. It's a service that we pay for, and it's a multi-million-dollar structure that is absolutely gorgeous, and it needs to be used. They did change the hours on Sunday from 8 in the morning to 4, so I can hit it on the way to church, Mission Hills, or First Baptist. Anyway, but that helps for some people, but it closes earlier. It closes at 4. And I know it's not going to be that much more of a cost to keep 2 employees there like they used to do to keep it open longer. But that is the number one complaint from all the people that I talk to there. But it's just a beautiful facility, and it needs to be used a little bit more than what it's being used. The hours are very limited. The other thing I have is the golf course, which is to me the second diamond of Temple Terrace. I don't play golf, but I love driving by and looking at it and everything. I'm a successful businessman. I also own farms and venues, and I sell a lot of trees. I recommended the gym music there, and I know they're tight on their budget because their trees are all dying and falling down. Y'all might want to look at putting olive trees in. They live to be 500 years old. Some are alive when Jesus was here last time. They keep their leaves all year long. There's no pruning. Hurricanes can't phase them. God made them that way. They're beautiful trees, and it would be a magnet to Temple Terrace. I donated the 2 sugar bells around the curb, the orange trees, for the community, and I donated some at the rec center. But the olive trees, I think it would be a great asset to Temple Terrace and the golf course because the trees are dying at a phenomenal rate. The cost to remove them things and then to maintain and then get the beetle bugs and they die again, they need to look at something like that. Anyway, thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Anybody else have any comments for public comments at this time? Seeing none, thank you very much. Okay. Public hearings. We have the second public hearing and second reading of Ordinance 1527 for Land Development Code, Text Amendment TXT 22-01, amending Section 12-04. I will open the public hearing. Senior Planner Gus Carpus will explain. Mr. Carpus.
Yes, good evening. Again, we have the final reading and hopefully the adoption of Ordinance 1527. Okay, there we go. For the Land Development Code Text Amendment, text TXT 22-01, looks like I forgot a dash up there, amending Section 1240, definitions in the Land Development Code. Just to kind of recap real quick, the City Council adopted Ordinance 1517 back in November of 2021, amending multiple sections of Chapter 12, including the definitions section. And this was to come in compliance with some changes that FEMA had made. In doing so, we were going to completely delete definitions for existing manufactured home park and subdivision and new manufactured home park or subdivision and create a new definition for accessory structure. It was discovered that in deleting the new manufactured home park or subdivision, that there was a second portion that was not included in the initial deletion. And after speaking with the city attorney, it was felt that portion was too large to be considered a Scrivener's error, so we needed to adopt a second ordinance to do that. So these are the definitions. This one was deleted. This was also deleted, but the highlighted area is the area that was not included in Ordinance 1517 that is now being included. And then this is the new definition of accessory structure. So those already exist. The only thing we're doing is taking out the highlighted part. Again, staff is recommending approval that the council adopt Ordinance 1527 so we can get this on and get it all codified and our ordinance up to date. I don't know if anybody has any questions.
Okay. Before we get to questions, is there any public comment regarding this change? Appearing to be none. Council, any questions? No. Okay, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and ask the clerk to read the title of the ordinance, or the deputy clerk to read the title of the ordinance.
An ordinance of the City of Temple Terrace, Florida, relating to floodplain management, amending the City of Temple Terrace Code of Ordinances, Chapter 12 of the Land Development Code, Section 1240, definitions, providing for applicability and severability, providing for an effective date, and repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith.
Okay, if the ordinance is acceptable, I'll entertain a motion to adopt Ordinance 1527 for the Land Development Code Text Amendment 22-TXT-22-01, amending Section 12-40 definitions.
So moved. Second?
We move in a second. Okay, any discussion on the motion for the ordinance? Okay, I'll ask for a vote. All in favor, aye? Aye. Anyone opposed? Thank you. Motion passes. Thank you very much. Okay. Resolutions approving the to approve the complete streets and safety action plan. City Engineer Brian McCarthy will explain. Brian, welcome.
Good evening, Vice Mayor, City Council, Brian McCarthy, City Engineer. And I'm here this evening to seek approval for the Complete Streets and the Safety Action Plan to send to the state of Florida. So over the last 6 months, we evaluated existing conditions, met with stakeholders, held a public workshop, developed a concept plan that we presented to you last week. Our grant focused on 3 corridors, Whiteway Avenue, Druid Hills Road, and River Hills Drive. So throughout this study, what I've kind of learned is that the public wants to be involved with our transportation decision-making process. So we hope to kind of use some of the tools that we learned through this process to implement on our other streets within the city. As opportunities arise to implement some of these different tools, we'll return back to City Council to have a complete street discussion, again, to keep up with the staff, council, and the public, so everyone's aware of what we're trying to do. Please keep in mind that the plan before you is just conceptual. We'll again come back for the design and the construction aspects of any type of improvements that we seek to do. With that said, staff recommends approval of the Complete Streets and the Safety Action Plan to send to the state to help fulfill our requirement for the grant. I stand for any questions.
Okay. Before we do that, is there any public comment? I do have one person who indicated wanted to speak on this. Annette Rennie.
Good evening. Annette Rennie, 9512 Woodland Ridge Drive. I was here for that presentation, and I am concerned. I think it was Councilwoman Donahue who mentioned how difficult roundabouts are and how it was that it could be hit if there weren't rocks. Well, the intersections of Gillette and Whiteway and River Hills and Whiteway, as well as Druid Hills and River Hills, are very small. They're inner city streets. We cannot do something like that. I mean, I can just picture buses trying to get through there. I can picture trucks or our tree trimmers or our trash pickup people trying to do that. And even at the intersection of Fowler, where they actually are large and they have the new dividers there, I can see that. But on the inner cities, this just won't work. Also, people who own trucks and drive through the city, that would be just a disaster. So I would ask the council, I know that was just a temporary kind of presentation, but I don't think that we should consider anything close to that in the inner city area with those spaces being as small as they are. I think it would be a real problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other public comment? Appearing to be none. Council, do you have any questions for Mr. McCarthy? Yes.
Thank you. And it is a concept plan, so like some of the things mentioned, the medians in the intersections to calm traffic, that's not going to be set in stone. We have control over what's designed, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, this is just a concept.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other? Ms. Donahue?
I want to reiterate that this is a concept plan and that from what it says here, as funds become available and as we resurface roads, individually, these would be looked at, correct? So, and every time you will come back to council for approval. So, and I'm sure, I know the engineering folks don't like to waste their own time, or mine either, that you will bring something back that has been well vetted. I mean, I have a lot of confidence in our staff to do that. So I want to assure the public that we're not just going to put these up because they are the next new shiny thing that can go into a city, because each corner is different. Everyone is different. So what I'm most proud of is that we're looking at this, that we're not waiting until we run into a situation where we should have done something to protect the public. So I wholeheartedly agree that we need to move forward with this. And I thank you very much for your presentation last time and for summarizing it like you did tonight. So,
Vice Mayor? And just to confirm, this is specifically to complete the requirements of the grant, not that these are action items. So it has, okay. So this is so we can submit to the state. So just wanted to make sure that point was clarified. That's all.
I got a couple of comments too. One, how many people participated in the public outreach? Do we have an idea how many actually came to those meetings?
I believe there was about 10 people that showed up to the public workshop itself, but we got maybe another 5 or 6 comments outside of that workshop venue.
Okay. I just want to make a point of that. You know, citizens sometimes complain because they don't get the opportunity to voice their opinion on things. And then when we have open sessions like this, we may only get 10 or 15 people out of 26,000 that live in Temple Terrace that come in. And without the right people leading, we could get something that we really didn't want. So, and that goes to the definition of accepting the report. In the beginning, when I first saw this was on the agenda, it's like, wait a minute. We had 10 people trying to dictate what's going to happen in all the intersections in the city. Not trying to dictate, but giving the suggestions and giving the ideas. But the definition of accepting, as Councilwoman Abel said, is to just, we'll accept your report because it was done. And it's necessary to accept it in order for the grant portion of it to be spent. Otherwise, we're going to end up paying, City of Temple Terrace ends up paying for the whole grant, or for the whole study through Kimberly Horn, I believe it was.
Oh, no, this would go back to the states. So
Well, the money would go back to the state, but then we'd have to pay Kimberly Horn, and then we'd have to cut a check for it. So accepting it is merely saying, yes, acknowledging you did the study, and understanding that, you know, the report that was generated from it, but it's no way encumbering the city to do any of it at any time, ever, unless something, unless it's brought back to council for approval and so forth. So that this council, or any council, would have the final opportunity to say yay or nay on it. So I just want to make sure everybody's on the same page. This is not happening. It's just accepting the report as it was written. Okay. So therefore, if this is acceptable to council, entertain a motion to accept the complete streets and safety action plan.
I move to approve the resolution approving the Complete Streets and Safety Action Plan.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Very good. Thank you. Motion is approved. Thank you, Brian. Entertaining a resolution to approve an agreement with Wauke Construction Company for Fire Station 1 kitchen and apparatus bay floor remodeling project. Chief Kemp will explain.
Vice Mayor, Council, Ian Kemp, your fire chief. I'm presenting tonight a proposed contract with Wauke Construction Company for a new kitchen construction, painting, and a new apparatus bay floor at Fire Station 1. Due to the age and condition of the kitchen and apparatus bay floor at Fire Station 1, both are in need of replacement and reconditioning. The fire department obtained a Hillsborough County invitation to bid. Wauke Construction Company, LLC Incorporated, was awarded was the award recipient. The fire department reached out to Wauke Construction to provide a quote for services utilizing the above-mentioned Hillsborough County bid. After receiving a quote for services from Wauke Construction and speaking with Hillsborough County, as well as other references, the decision was made to piggyback off the county bid for Fire Station 1 renovations. The dollar amount needed for this project is $150,292 that has been budgeted under line item 160-1521-522.62-41. Staff recommends the City Council approve the resolution authorizing the execution of this agreement with Wauke Construction for kitchen remodeling, painting, and replacing the bay floor at Fire Station 1.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any public comment regarding this resolution? Very to be done. Council, does anybody have any questions for Chief Kemp or staff? Yes, Councilmember Donahue.
You're really getting rid of the dishwasher?
I'm sorry, ma'am?
You're getting rid of the dishwasher? And it says
Talking to
eliminate.
my guys, is that what's
It's,
going on?
yeah, I've been talking to your guys. Yeah, no, I'm kidding. I have not. I was reading this and
Hey, gals, I'm sorry.
so there's, I mean, is that something that is normal to not have a dishwasher?
So I'm not really sure exactly. I looked at the initial plans. I'm not sure if there's a dishwasher in there or not. Let me tell you about the dishwasher. We actually spoke, so if you want to know about the dishwasher, I'll tell you about the dishwasher. Years ago, the dishwasher probably was not maintained as well as it should have been, partially due to the hard water here in the city of Temple Terrace. Because of that, we were throwing a lot of money at fixing the dishwasher. The decision was made at that time that we were going to hand wash things. We put in a new sink, double sink, and then when we were looking at contracting for this, we asked the firefighters, what would you prefer, knowing that we would have to take care of a dishwasher. They're used to doing hand washing dishes now, so they made a decision on their own not to get a dishwasher.
I know that sounds like I'm, nitpicking here. Okay.
That's fine.
But this is so beautifully laid out. You can picture what's coming in, what's going out. And so I was like, well, I only see one eliminate. I see reinstall on some other things. So, no, I'm not, but I do want everybody to recognize that our firefighters are willing to wash and dry their own dishes.
Yes, ma'am, and they wash and dry their fire trucks every day as well.
Otherwise, I thought the plan is obviously needed by the list of items that are here.
Yes, ma'am.
And so, whatever it takes, yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. That's my only question. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Appearing to be none, if acceptable, entertain a motion on the agreement with Wauke Construction Company for Fire Station 1 Kitchen Apparatus Bay Floor Remodeling Project in the amount of $150,292.
I move to approve the resolution approving the agreement to remodel the project at Fire Station 1.
Do we have a second? Second? Motion second. I do have one. I just saw a question.
Oh, yes, sir.
When will it be done? Will it be done this fiscal year or will it carry over?
Oh, it should be
Okay.
should be done this year, with construction and.
Yeah, I know, that's-
But my understanding is they're ready to go, and once they tear the kitchen out, it should only be about 3 weeks to put it back together, so hopefully
Okay, I
it'll
apologize.
be done. No,
Okay, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign? No nays? Motion is approved.
thank you very much, and just so you know, once we're all done, we'll invite all of you over for a firehouse dinner.
Okay,
On me, I'll pay for it. All right.
uptown. Thank you, chief. Okay. Item D is a resolution approving SPR 21-03, a site plan review application for 7,200 square foot retail office structure located at 13102 North 56th Street. Senior Planner Gus Carpus will explain.
I am back. Okay. So, as you described, we are looking at a resolution for site plan 21-03. As you can tell by the number, this has been on the docket for a while. The applicant has been working with the city engineer to get some drainage and other stuff done. So the applicant is looking to construct a new 7,200 square foot retail/office structure at 13102 North 56th Street. The owner is Mohammed Saleh, and the applicant is JD Al-Sabah with Sycamore Engineering. So the property is vacant. It's on the northwest corner of the intersection of East 131st Avenue and 56th Street. Currently zoned commercial general, future land use commercial, and little over a half acre, 0.61 acres. So I did include this aerial map. I don't know if anything's changed from last year when I put it together. Kind of shows you the uses around the property. The big thing is going to be to the west, you have some residential uses which will come into play during the landscaping phase of the development. So here you have the site plan showing the 7,200 square foot footprint for the multi-tenant structure. The structure has a maximum height of 19 foot at the decorative parapets. You will see those when I get to the elevations. It's on the east and west side of the structures. It'll have access off 131st Avenue. There's 24 parking spaces provided, even though only 22 are required. I applied the maximum, most intensive parking, which is retail, to the entire 7,200. And then the 6-foot landscape buffer along the west property line, as I was saying, I did speak with the applicant. There's a 3-foot retaining wall and then a 4-foot fence on top. Our ordinance requires either a man-made or a natural buffer of a minimum of 6-foot height when you're adjacent to a residential area. So that is complied with. Now, the request is asking for 2 waivers of the vision triangle. This explains the vision triangle. I don't know if you want to read this or if I can just go to the next slide, which shows you the picture, which gives you a much better idea of what all this says. That's up to you.
I've read it.
You've read it? Okay. So what the vision triangle is it's a triangle that we have at the intersection of right-of-way. And so it's a 30-foot by 30-foot triangle with nothing over, I believe, between 3 foot and 6 foot in height to allow people to see when they're pulling out into traffic. When the site plan was submitted, the white triangle is what was shown. That's not the right-of-way, that's the edge of the road. The right-of-way technically is their property line. So the blue triangle is what applies to this site. So what they're looking for is a waiver of the section of the code, and I forget 12-1055, for the sign, the placement of the sign, which is there with the white circle, and also to permit the southeast 32 square foot corner there of the structure to be placed within that vision triangle. Now, it's hard to see, but if you look at the sign on the eastern side, the easternmost portion of that monument sign is nearly 35 feet from the actual edge of the road. And that's along 56, which is already, so that's a huge right-of-way, and I don't know how much more expansion of the road there would be. And then on the south, where the sign is, you can barely see it, but you're looking at probably another 25 to 30 feet to the edge of the road there along. So this property is set way back. What creates this issue is that the applicant has actually done what we want in the downtown area, is push the building up towards the road, put the parking in the back. And by doing so, he's created the situation where they're going to need these waivers on there. I'm supportive of them. He did submit a justification that was included within your packet. So here are the elevations, and again, I talked about the east-west elevations had a 19-foot maximum height at the parapet, so the decorative entrance. So that's what's going to be along 56th, and then on the back side of the building where the parking is going to be the design, and it's going to be faced all the way around the building, so it's going to be decorative. You're not going to have any flat walls with no windows. And then the Development Review Committee has reviewed the project, and there were no objections to the site plan, subject to the council approval of the requested waivers. And staff is recommending approval for the request with the waivers as shown in the site plan. The applicant is here. I'm here for any questions. And that's about what we've got at this point.
Thank you very much. Okay, is there any, would the applicant like to say anything? There, okay. Yes, sir. Please come state your name and city for the record.
Yes, sir, definitely. Good afternoon, respected Mayor and Councilor. My name is J.D. El-Sabbar. I'm with Sycamore Engineering, 8370 West Hillsborough Avenue, Suite 205, Tampa, Florida, 33615. I'm the engineer of record and the agent for the owner. So as you see, our site is located at northwest corner of 131st Street and 56th Street, 0.61 acre. We're proposing 7,200 square foot of office, required parking, retention, and utilities serving the site. As mentioned, we proposing waiver to the sign and part of the building. And those two waivers, as mentioned, it really does not affect the safety of motorists who are going to coming up to the stop sign or coming up into our site. So nothing to add and ready to answer any question.
Mr. Purpose.
Yes, staff did want to add something. I did forget. There are mobility fees and, excuse me, and tree mitigation. So the mobility fee that would be attached to this, the transportation concurrency, is $20,580, and that's based on a 100% office use, 7,200 square foot office use. So that fee would change as the building is developed and occupied. So any type of retail comes in, then that fee would change as the building is occupied. But as it stands right now, we're looking at a fee of $20,580 for transportation concurrency and $90,000 for tree mitigation. Those would be required for payment prior to any land development permits or anything like that. So that's part of the approval process. And the applicant is aware of that.
Just JD Alsaba again, I am acknowledge, we get that, so as requested by Gus, no problem.
Okay, very good, thank you. Okay, any public comment regarding this resolution? Hearing to be none. Council, any questions? Yes?
My question is about the site triangle. Is that is that in the code because of safety reasons? Is that why it's there?
Correct. It's so people can pull up, and if they're, excuse me, taking left or right, that they're able to see and have an unobstructed view above 3 foot and below 6.
Mm-hmm.
And in this case, with what we have here is the site triangle then is at the property line because that's technically where the right-of-way starts. In this case, the edge of the road doesn't start for an additional 30-some feet in either location. So the vision triangle is penalizing the building and the sign, even though the actual road is here where people would be turning. So that's why I looked at it that way. And again, I looked at, it is a large right-of-way, it is 56, and currently the road is divided. How many lanes, how much more expansion would there really be on that site in that right-of-way? So yeah, the vision triangle is for safety, but in this case, I didn't see an issue with granting the waivers to that, given the actual location of the building in relation to the edge of the road.
Thank you. I heard the applicant say that it wasn't a safety issue, but your
No, I think he did say it was a safety issue. No. Where he's placing it now, it is not a safety issue?
That's what I was trying to communicate.
Yeah, so, no, where he's proposing is not a safety issue, if you're looking at it now, but the whole vision triangle purpose is to make sure there's no safety issues.
Understood. Yeah, your explanation clarified why
Okay.
it wasn't a safety issue and why that exists anyway. So thank you for that.
Okay.
That's all.
Ms. Donahue?
So I understand the vision triangle, but what is the second waiver?
The
They
second.
both
well,
apply to the same piece?
Yeah, it's the same, I don't know if I can get back to my picture here. So if you look, there's 2 waivers. So I look at the sign as one waiver,
Okay.
and then I look at the corner of the building, so everything within that other triangle there is individual waivers.
All right. I understand. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chambers?
Thank you. Could you go back to that slide, somebody? Okay.
Yes.
The box marked number 1, if you could see that, is that the existing sidewalk? There's a couple ones with little arrows.
Oh, gosh. Let's see if I can see it on mine.
Oh,
Do you
yeah.
know what, yeah, the number one
They're
notes?
pentagon boxes,
Existing sidewalk.
Existing-
where
oh,
they
yeah.
say proposed sign.
because I can't read the legend over
Yeah, I
there.
can't read the legend either, because I cut it out.
So this is here, the existing sidewalk.
So
This
that's
is-
the existing
yes.
sidewalk, and that's gonna remain.
It almost where the proposed sign ward is located. So there is a distance between the right-of-way line and the sidewalk. And that's when justification I submit, I show that pedestrian will not get an issue with where they are, because the pedestrian will be on the public sidewalk. One, two, when somebody on 131st Avenue, also when he stand up to take that right, you can see visibility, which I saw in big triangle in my justification.
Okay, so the stop bar and everything on the road is way up near
That
the
is
sidewalk?
correct.
Way up.
Way up, exactly to the front.
Like 35 feet away.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other questions? Okay. My only concern with the ingress and egress on 131st was how big that triangle would be to interfere, again, which is what these things are developed to place at all the intersections. You can't write the code to cover every particular intersection. And since you can only really go north, okay, you can cut across, but I mean, your easiest out is going to go north on 56th Street. So you got plenty of room. You're only cutting off 32 feet with that, which is a 4x8 sheet of plywood. So anyway, okay, cool. If this is acceptable, entertain a motion approving site plan, approving SPR 21-03 site plan review application for the 7,200 square foot retail office structure located at 13102 North 56th Street.
I move to approve the resolution.
Second.
Any-
You can do it.
Okay. Any discussion on the motion? Appearing to be none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Like sign opposed, motion carries. Thank you very much. Good luck. Okay. This will be the first public hearing of the ordinance first public hearing and first reading of an ordinance amending section 12-72 of the code entitled Board of Adjustment. I will open the public hearing. City Attorney Pam Shoshone will explain.
Thank you. Late last year, early this year, the legal department began to review the ordinance concerning the Board of Adjustment. That was part of looking at the land development code this is contained within. We started looking at the criteria that must be considered when the board is judging an application for variance. That this seemed to be something that the board had been struggling with as each case came up. So we decided to see what other cities had in their codes dealing with variance applications and appeals of the community development director, or in some cases it's the building official or the zoning official. And we looked at ordinances from Gainesville, Palm Beach, St. Petersburg, Tampa, and several small towns in Florida. That's where I discovered that there is a city of Atlantis in Florida, and looked at their code as well. Some of their code mirrors ours exactly. So clearly the cities copy from each other because it was word for word in some of it. But it looked like the variance criteria that tells both the board and tells citizens what needs to be weighed was a little more extensive in other cities than in our city. So we decided to beef it up a little bit so maybe it would be a little more understandable to the board that has to deal with this each month, as well as citizens that may come before the board requesting a variance or seeking an appeal from the community development director's decisions. And that was part of the change that we included, because in reviewing the ordinance, we discovered that in one place early on in the ordinance, it mentioned appeal of the Director of Community Development. But as you then continue to read through the ordinance, it uses the word appeal over and over again, but doesn't make it clear further on that it's an appeal of the Community Development Director. Now, I, reading that as an attorney, would know that that's what it meant because that's what it first talked about and no other real new topic came up. But it appeared that citizens may be confused by that and think that, as it reads on, that it's discussing procedures concerning the appeal of the Board of Adjustment's decision. Nothing in there is concerning appealing the decision of the board itself. The appeal is always talking about appealing the decision of staff, appealing a decision by somebody within the city to the Board of Adjustment. And so that we wanted to clarify that, which we did. I think the only place it may mention an appeal of the board's decision is to tell citizens, where do you go? What do you do once the board has made the decision? And then that would be an appeal to circuit court. But we clarified that portion of it. Other cities put into their ordinances, they include a list of preferred qualifications, if you will, for board members. This board deals with a lot of technicalities. They are required to analyze, oftentimes, building plans. This isn't something an average person is familiar with doing. In a meeting I had recently with citizens, they were thoroughly confused about the survey of their own property. You know, they never were able, they didn't look at it, they weren't able to read it, they didn't understand it. This is something, though, that our board members need to look at, and therefore their skills and knowledge, I feel, should be a little above the average. I think it would be, it's more fair for the citizens coming in front of them, and it's more fair for the city, because the other thing that our board is required to do, as are all boards that deal with variance requests and appeal of staff decision, is they have to weigh whether they are going to enforce our land development code or whether they are going to give a variance to our land development code. So it can get very technical. So as I said, other cities have some preferred qualifications, and we took that from other cities' ordinances and put them into ours. So that was another change that was made. Also, we have limited people on the board. We have only a 5-member board, and some cities have a 7-member board, but ours is only 5. It's important that we have all members available to make a decision and that we have a quorum. If we were to have, currently we have 3 people, I believe, who live in basically the same neighborhood. Should a neighbor of theirs make an application to the board, they would have to recuse themselves, and we would no longer have a quorum. So we need to, as we're moving forward, try to eventually eliminate that particular problem. So we've written that into the code, that we are hoping for some diversity of location, that we get people on our board who live in all the areas of the city, and that we have some, as I said, some diversification. We're hoping that, with the clarifying of the procedure as well that we've included in there, that it's going to be easier for staff to administer. For when people call up, they don't always call the legal department, they call community development, they call the clerk's office. The clerk is apparently the repository of every bit of information within the city. So they get called. This will make it hopefully easier, because I'm certainly not going to be here forever, but I would hope that going forward, this will now be easier to use for both the board, for the citizens, and for staff that has to administer this on a regular basis. I wanted to point out one thing in the ordinance itself before you would consider voting on this, is that in the third whereas clause, it lists 1 through 5 of things that are being amended. Number 3 should come out. We ended up not removing that portion, the appeal of orders, requirements, decisions, and determinations made by the Community Development Director. We were considering putting that in a separate section, but decided to leave it in. Every city that we looked at had that exact language included, so we decided to leave it. So in the ordinance itself, number 3 should be stricken. And if a motion is made, it should be made with reference to that correction.
Okay, is that it? Thank you. Okay. Is there any public comment to be made for this issue? We do have one who requested, Ms. Annette Rennie.
I have some as well.
Pardon me?
I have some too.
Okay, we will do, and, okay. We'll get to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Annette Rennie, 9512 Woodland Ridge Drive. It's posted outside that you want citizens on the boards. As a citizen who volunteered for a board, I think that most of us do it because we care about the city. Regardless of where you live, most of us don't all know every neighbor in the city. And this is a small community. I mean, you could meet someone at Publix, for all I know. This is not fair, and I think that people who volunteer and want to be on a board do it because they care about this city. We don't discuss it, we vote, we don't always vote the same, but once it's done, it's over and we leave. It should also include the fact that the citizens have a say for other citizens. The attorney has a say for city council, which is what it's meant to be. So they represent you, and we, as citizens, whatever board we're on, represent the citizens, and we try to do it fairly and honestly, not always agreeing, but doing it the way we're supposed to do. I hope that you do not pass this. I hope you don't go forward with this. I think it's quite unfair what was said and how it was said. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I do have one, Mr. Jack Ritter, and then we'll get to you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm going to ask you folks to defer this for a couple of weeks. I didn't get a chance to read all the backup material, but I have probably been before the Board of Adjustment more than any person in this city. Got a big piece of property, but boy, I have been nailed to the cross and trying to get some things done. It's tough, but yet I have a piece of property that I had a building permit for, had a waiver for, and then when I go to enclose that piece of property, i.e. a carport to a garage, I have to get another waiver. That's a $150 fee. And you should have seen some of the gyrations we went through. I'm a licensed subcontractor, have been for probably 17 years now. Understand the construction business, understand the codes and the reasons why. That needs to be fixed, need to have some contractors on this board. You know, skill levels are one thing, imposters are yet another. So I'm asking that you defer this, give me an opportunity to read all of the background and probably talk to the new building official. So, thank you.
Thank you. Sir? You'll state your name and city for record.
Yeah. Good evening, Council. Brian Strausser, 53rd Street in Temple Terrace. I'm the property owner there, in which I also reside with my wife and 5 of my fantastic 6 children that we reside there. We've been here about 5 years, been in Hillsborough County since 1972. I have some comments on this. I also have some questions that I would like you guys to consider. reason I have a lot of input on this, I recently have gone through the variance process. And I can tell you that what I've seen unfold is not a just process. So I've got some notes, and I'd like the opportunity to share. I've got comments and questions. I went through it in very detail. In reference to the planned additions in Section C, powers and duties, we're adding a double qualification now for a hardship to be undue and necessary. Now, it's already clear and consistent with Florida statutes that requires the determination of unnecessary hardship in order to grant a variance. But adding this additional, it's a double qualifying test, now it has to be both undue and necessary. Now, that's an overreach by the city. It may sound minor, but I can tell you in practice, the way this is handled, look at the minutes for the workshop conducted on November 18th, 2021, where your city council's attorney, Ms. Pam Sichon, told the Board of Adjustment, and I'll quote, "If you have a piece of property, then you are already making reasonable use of the land." Another quote, "If you look very strictly at the code, then it wouldn't entitle anyone to variance at all." So just with that position, when a resident comes through that variance process, it's a loaded dice. We don't get a fair process, just alone. So now we're going to add one more hurdle to say, hey, that's an unnecessary burden or hardship, but it's not both undue and necessary. That's important to realize because the words matter in these ordinances. The second thing I'll mention that your attorney just kind of didn't even discuss with you just now, it has added verbiage that says variances can be granted with conditions or safeguards. Agreed. That's statutory. A lot of case law supports that. But now with this new verbiage, if that condition, if those extra conditions or safeguards are violated, that variance automatically becomes null and void. Now I ask you, where is the due process there? What's the procedure? Who brings an allegation forward that a resident has violated the safeguards or the condition? Nobody. It just automatically becomes null and void? Why wouldn't the property owner have a right to be heard? And is it the city's attorney that's just going to enforce that arbitrarily? That's not fair. Section D, General Rules and Procedure. It also adds this term, other matters within the board's purview. Now, look at the existing ordinance under Section C, Powers and Duties. It's clear. The Board of Adjustment has 3 powers. To hear and decide appeals. Sir, I'm on the public comment. It doesn't give it gives a 15.
You have 3 minutes for public comment.
That's not what it says here. It says 15 minutes on a presentation.
But that's not a presentation.
But this is not this is a comment on the agenda, not off the agenda.
I don't think it's 3 minutes. It's 3 minutes regardless. Thank you very much.
I'm not done. Can I read the?
No.
Hold on a second.
Sorry.
I'm going to read what this says. The agenda you provided, which the clerk's office provided, says persons wishing to be heard on items not listed on the agenda.
This is on the agenda.
The same
Right.
applies for agenda items and non-agenda.
It does not say that.
Your time limit is 3 minutes. Thank you, sir. We understand that you have concerns with it. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Any questions from council?
Would anyone here like to?
Excuse me, sir.
Provide their time for me to speak on their behalf?
Excuse me.
If multiple residents are here, you can give your time to me.
Excuse me. Excuse me, you're not recognized to speak at this point. Thank you. Any questions for council at this time? You look like you have one.
I do. I'm trying to formulate this. It's my understanding that this has not come about just because of one particular item. This has been something that we've been looking at for a while.
Yes, this is
And-
something we've been looking at for a
Right. To
while.
clean up our process.
And as each case happens, you see where people are led astray or they don't understand. And so we just trying to tighten this up as best we can. As far as adding undue to the word hardship, that is common language used in the law with regard to variances and determining what hardships are. Undue means almost the same thing as unnecessary. It's just another word that we hope that will impress upon both the board and citizens what their goal is or what their limitations are. So, and as far as determining whether there's been a violation of the conditions, obviously that would go to the building official, the zoning official, or code enforcement. They are the ones that discover these things on a regular basis and end up leading people to asking for a variance. So it would not ever be me. It would be someone among city staff that would make that determination and see that something had been done. A common condition, so in, say, granting a variance for a carport, the condition would be you can have your carport, but you can't ever enclose it and turn it into a garage. And so that would be a condition. If someone, and oftentimes, I admit, these violations of the conditions are not discovered perhaps for years, maybe not ever. But if someone sees, they remember that a variance was given to build this carport, and they see that now it's suddenly being enclosed, that would come back to the city and a stop work order would be issued because it would not have been allowed under the conditions of the variance.
But it wouldn't come back to the Board of Adjustment.
So
It would come back to the city.
it would come back to the city as a code violation.
Okay,
Excuse me.
all right, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Chambers, any comments? I do have a couple of things.
We're in questions,
I s-
not comments.
Pardon me?
We're in the questions, not comments.
Yeah, but it was a question. I apologize. It's a question. Are we permitted to dictate the regions or the location of the members? Case in point, we have we serve at large. All of us, all of our committees serve at large. Can we dictate that in ordinance, or is that not a quicksand issue for us?
I think that perhaps that particular section has not been read carefully enough. We said whenever possible. We're not saying that they have to be in this section or that neighborhood. It's just that when you have a pool of applicants and you're trying to make the decision between one or another, rather than pick somebody who's in the exact same neighborhood as somebody who's already on, if you've got an applicant who lives in another neighborhood of the city, that would be preferable. So then, and as was mentioned by the speaker, they represent the citizens. Essentially, they're not representing anybody when they're up there. They're like the code enforcement board. This is a quasi-judicial board that is supposed to be like a judge. You don't represent anybody. You are supposed to make a neutral, judicial decision based only on the evidence that is presented in front of you. You are not there to represent the applicant. You're not there to represent any citizens, the neighbors, or anybody else. You are making a neutral decision. But we would just like there to be some diversity so that all areas of the city have someone, and so that we don't run into a quorum problem, because whether they know the person or not, that neighbor, if you live in the neighborhood, if you live on the block, you are affected by the decision you are suddenly being asked to make. Therefore, you must recuse yourself. It's an appearance of impropriety if you are voting on something where the person lives across the street or 2 doors down. You just should not do that. And so this way we can avoid a potential problem that way. In response to Mr. Ritter's comment, contractor is one of the professions that's in the list, as is a realtor. So Ms. Rennie's covered too, Mr. Ritter is covered too. Those are the professions that possess that extra qualification, those extra world experiences that would make them better to serve on the board.
Well, my point to that is that when I served on the Board of Adjustment a long time ago, we had like 4 members who lived within a radius of a mile of each other. And I don't know how we would police or monitor the location of where they're from, where they live, unless, like you said, we had a pool of applicants or a pool of people who wanted to serve. I don't want to get it. I don't want to approve this thing and say, okay, well, you live close to this person, so we can't consider you. And I'm sensing that you're not. That's not the intention of the ordinance.
No,
and there's no mechanism for that.
You could still consider them because it just says whenever possible.
Right.
So if you have a pool, a diverse pool, try to draw from that. If you don't, you don't. We need to have people serving on the board.
I just want to make sure there's no mechanism to exclude anybody.
No.
Within I didn't see anything, but I wanted to. You wrote it, so. Yes, Ms. Donahue, you had a question?
Yeah, that was my question too. I read that and I saw this long list, but I really liked the way it started, whenever possible in making appointments. So that's why you put it in that way, that this is not, they absolutely cannot, this is put here specifically to guide the council in choosing.
It's an
Yeah.
It's an aspirational goal.
It probably should be in other boards as well, because when you think about it, sorry, I'm straying from questions to comments. They're getting mixed up here.
It's too easy to do.
Yeah.
Mr. Chambers?
Yeah, thank you. I have a procedural question, how we're doing things now. We have 5 board members and 2 alternates. So does it may be you or somebody, how do the alternates work? Do they come to every meeting? I know the answer, but I mean, do they come to every meeting or do they just come when there's a member missing and they're called by City Hall?
Right. I believe they only come when they're called.
Okay, that's all. I just wanted to make sure to know that our board of 5, if one's gone, we could still have a board of 5 with one of our 2 alternates. That was all.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Going to ask the deputy clerk to read the title of the ordinance.
An ordinance of the City of Temple Terrace, Florida, amending the Temple Terrace Code of Ordinances by amending Section 1272 entitled Board of Adjustment by changing the duties and membership composition of the board, refining the hardship criteria, adding a rehearing process, and making other administrative changes, providing for severability, providing for codification, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing an effective date.
Okay, if the ordinance is acceptable, entertain a motion to approve the ordinance on the first reading with a second reading, if it's approved, in 2 weeks on July 5th.
I'm willing to make that motion. I have a question. Do I have to add the part about the whereas number 3 being stricken?
Yes.
Okay. So I move to approve the first reading of an ordinance amending Section 12-72 of the code entitled Board of Adjustment to include the striking of whereas number 3?
Well, whereas, item number
Whereas
3
number
under the
3,
whereas.
Item 3.
Whereas,
It would be number 3 under the third whereas clause.
okay. So amend my motion to say, to include number 3, whereas number 3. I can't seem to get that said. I have to write that down, sorry. May I say whatever she says?
It would be a motion to approve the ordinance except for
Okay,
the third, the third item listed in the third whereas
Okay, all right. Thank you. I'm going to go with that.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any comment, any discussion on the motion? My comments on this are that this is not a final passing. There will be another review of this in 2 weeks. We'll have a full council here at that point in case there's any other discussion. I was concerned with the exclusion, if you will, of neighbors. I feel comfortable with the explanation of the city attorney in how the ordinance is to be interpreted and written. If there's any way we can clarify that a little bit for the next reading, it might be a little bit easier for people that might be concerned about it, or residents, citizens listening who say, I'd like to get involved, but now they're putting extra restrictions on it. Maybe we could clarify that a little bit for the next go-around. But having served on that board, you had the 5 criteria, and it got a little confusing every once in a while. So, but how does this really affect it? And I mean, there was one point where a guy had to tear down half his house because he didn't do it the right way, and he didn't get the variance didn't apply. So I've seen it go both ways. And again, it was in the mid-90s, so that was a long, long time ago. So it shows how old I am. But anyway, it is time that we cleaned up some of the issues, some of the language, some of the criteria, and everybody's got to realize it is a quasi-judicial board. We have the same thing when we sit up here for zoning issues and so forth. It's a tough hat to switch. So I'm glad we're clearing up some of these, and that is the charge of the city attorney, is to go through and review some of the older ordinances. And this is another step towards accomplishing that.
I just want to add one more comment, if you don't mind.
Okay, and, I will support the first reading, and hopefully we get some of these other little issues cleaned up before we do the second reading.
Just want to
Councilman Donovan.
remind everybody that recently we appointed, we've had several boards that a couple we created, and some that we voted for people to come on, and we specifically voted for them because they had expertise in the field. So I think this gives us a range of expertise levels that says, actually, this speaks to the importance of this board, is that this is not just a bunch of people deciding on what happens to their neighbor or not. These are people who understand construction and engineering and architectural design and all those different things. So was very happy to see the broad list that you put in here. So thank you very much for allowing me to make
Any other
that
comment? Okay, all in favor of the motion as read and amended and clarified, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, like sign. Being none, okay, the motion has passed. The ordinance will appear for a second reading and public hearing on Tuesday, July 5th, 2022. Thank you. Okay, council business.
Good evening.
Dr. Smith.
Florida ROI Broker Associates Eric Odom and Robert Worthman would like to meet with council to discuss developer incentives and marketing strategies for the sale of city properties. Since Florida ROI is seeking council direction, we have requested a special meeting be held. And next week, we're holding 2 budget workshops. And the second budget workshop is Thursday, June 30th, from 1 to 3:30 or so. And we're asking if a special meeting at 3:30 on the 30th would be convenient for council.
Everybody good with that?
I'm fine with that.
Good, I'm good. I believe Mayor Ross is good with that also.
All right, thank you.
Okay. So that's it. What time, 3:30 you say?
3:30 on the 30th. And we have the workshop Tuesday from 9 to 12, and then the second workshop will be Thursday from 1 to 3:30.
Okay. Any other council business? I have a couple of things. Mr. Tinch, can you give us any update on Ferncliff? Sorry. Ah, Brian, okay. Mr. Brian, could you give us an
Not
update on
ask us for
Franklin?
money tonight.
Not yet. So with the Fircliffe sidewalk, we got survey. It's in the middle of design right now. They actually submitted it last week, 90% design-wise. I'm going to review it and then probably also reach back out to the residents who had concerns before we move on to the 100% design plans and send it out to bid.
Okay. What's the chance of before school starts?
We're hoping to complete it, yes, this summer. Well, excuse me, let me take a step back. The design will be completed, but our budget, we have it in next fiscal year's cycle because it's going to be a large sidewalk.
The horizon is approaching.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you. Oh,
I want to comment on that.
oh, okay, please.
A question. Will the neighbors clearly understand it won't be in for the start of school?
I will bring that to their attention.
Yes, thank you.
And we've all spoken to them, so if there's any issues or concerns, let us know so that we can assist with that outreach if necessary. Okay? Okay, cool. I did have a couple more items, if I could. Our deputy city clerk is here tonight because our regular city clerk is in Orlando. She was just, I'm going to issue congratulations to her. She was elected president of the Florida Association of City Clerks, so that she can, if she's watching this, she can see it. We are very proud of her. She's going to do a great job, and it's a good thing, and she's very well respected by her peers, and that's a good thing, which means we get the best of all the abilities of the Florida Association. So congratulations to her. I did want to bring up, and Carl, I don't mean to put you on the spot with this, but I can, so I will. School Support Committee, you don't need to get it. Well, you might want to. The School Support Committee had a concern during the holidays, and even back during COVID. You know, kids eating is a big deal. Kids having meals. We have a lot of socioeconomically challenged areas surrounding our city and within our city. And there's people who have struggled. And, you know, it's really hard to hear that a kid didn't eat dinner last night because it wasn't his turn to eat dinner. So we have programs that are available, and the school district does a food distribution program through the schools, and Greco in particular. But notice a sign out in front of the rec center. And just, I want to say thank you for the School Support Committee and everybody here. Can you talk a little bit about what's going on at the rec center that a lot of people may not see or hear about or be able to take advantage of?
We work with Feeding Tampa Bay to provide free breakfast, free lunch to the community. The family complex is considered an open site where any child under the age of 18 can come and get a free breakfast, free lunch. The caveat, they have to eat it on site. They have to eat it there, but because they're supervised. Our staff have all gone through training with Feeding Tampa Bay in food safety, food handling, and then the supervision of the children who are eating. We predominantly service the children who are involved in our summer camp. But like I said, we are an open site, and members of the public are allowed to come and welcome to come to the family complex to get a free meal. Children under the age of 18.
Thank you for doing this. This is important to our community, and it's an excellent opportunity to get some kids who aren't going to necessarily get a good meal, a good meal for the day. So thank you.
Welcome.
And then, okay, I have a board report. Yes, sir. Do you have anything else?
No.
Any other council business? Okay, new business and board reports. Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to just tell you about a really interesting presentation that the Affordable Housing Committee heard about at our last meeting, and it was specifically about real estate and what's happening with the real estate market and why it's the way it's been. A couple of points they made were, one of them was that we've been short on inventory since the 1970s, and now it's just really cascaded so that we have this really extreme shortage. And because of interest rates rising, the market might start to cool down. And I have a copy of the presentation I'd like to share with all of you because I think it has some really interesting insights that will help us make decisions about future housing options that might be coming toward Temple Terrace. So I'll send that along to you all, but I wanted to make sure you were aware that we're getting this information from the Affordable Housing Committee.
Thank you. Anybody else? My relationship with as the liaison to the Temple Terrace Golf and Country Club, there's been some significant changes in the board of directors and the administration there, and we have met with the new leaders, and the new president is Bob Boss, who we all know from his council days. But they will be here probably the second meeting in August for a presentation to give us an update, so tell us where they stand, and make sure we all have a good, warm, fuzzy feeling that they're moving in the right direction. So I just wanted to bring that forward. Okay, city manager's report. Mr. Spina.
Yes, thank you. I would just like to tonight introduce you to Mike Sherman. Mike is the new Community Development Director. He started last Wednesday, and I just wanted to publicly introduce him to the community.
Welcome on board, Mike. Welcome.
Don't you normally have to come up front? Then he gets to talk, everything else? Or are you getting off easy? Well, welcome. Welcome to the city. Okay. City attorney's report. Well,
I do have something else.
wait a second.
I'm sorry. We had a citizen come in after the persons wishing to be heard and asked if she could speak after the city attorney's report.
Okay, yes, we will do so. Ms. Shoshone.
I have 3 lien reductions to report. The first one is from 418 Ferncliff. The lien amount was $5,075. The city's costs were $106.60. The violation was for work without permit, and this was settled for $750. The total that has already been paid is $856. The next one is 533 Broxbourne Avenue. Again, violation was for work without permits. Also with the, I'm sorry, let me go back to the Ferncliff one. There were also stop work order fees. Those were paid separately. So 533 Broxbourne Avenue, the lien amount was $1,500. City's costs were $97.38. That was settled for $500. There were stop work order fees of $700, and so the total that was paid is $1,297.38. The last one is 305 Bannockburn Avenue. This was an odd case. This was violations for expired tags. The owner of the property worked overseas for the federal government. It was his car parked in his own driveway. The tags were ordered in a timely basis and were delivered and received in a timely basis, and the person staying at the house was supposed to apparently put the tags on the car, but that person went to Ohio, picked up the mail, and took the tag with him. So there was no tag to put on the car, and the lien amount was $3,525. This one was settled for $100. The city's costs were $101.38, and that was the total was paid though for let's see. The check's in the mail. We expect to receive it in a couple of days, and the total was $201.38. So all of the city's costs were covered in addition to an extra $100 for being a victim of circumstance. So.
Didn't know we had a code on
Oh, yeah.
tags.
It makes it an inoperable vehicle if you don't have
Motor
tags.
vehicles.
I guess so, I guess so. Tom, what was 38 cents?
A stamp. Must have been a couple of
Okay,
different things.
well, that's two city costs with the ending in 38 cents. I was just curious, you know. Okay, just curious.
That concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. Yes, ma'am, we had one, who was it that wanted to speak? Please come forward. That's the light.
Yeah, that's,
Thank you for giving us a chance. My name is Annette Avianeta. This is my husband, Geronimo Avianeta. We're at 11705 Primrose Lane, and maybe Mr. McCarthy can help us out. Sorry for being late. We had a meeting back in 2016, August, to come before the board to have a road vacated. So we live at 11705 Primrose Lane, where we own a small slice of pizza, like a pizza slice of land, at the corner of Primrose and Morris Bridge Road. And there's one road from when the Primrose Estates was made, before I-75 and Morris Bridge Road, or Fowler came into being. There were different roads, and they were all vacated over time. And ours, this one at Hyacinth, was never vacated. And this one is, we've lived there since 2002, April. And we started the whole vacation process when the other regime was in power. And we got a call like 3 days before the council meeting that it was put on hold due to the Morris Bridge Road
The trail?
project that they're
The
working.
trail project? Yeah,
Yes,
okay.
the trail. And since 2016, we've been asking when will it come back on the books? When will it come? We were told 2022, the last time I asked. Now, everything was done. Advertisement, sign put out. It was completely approved. Only for us to come in front of you to get whether we raise our hand and say yeah or nay. So at this point, we're respectfully asking that it be picked up from where the past regime said it would be picked back up. We would come back in front of you. The new Mr. McCarthy and maybe the new regime is now asking for us to go back to the beginning and do this whole thing over. And I find that a little unfair because the other projects that the former regime was working on, a lot of these projects, they're not being asked to go back to the beginning.
This is a case where they're asking that it's a small portion of right-of-way to be vacated. And the reason they want to go back to the beginning is because they would have to go back and make sure there's no more, there's no new developments or anything that would inhibit the vacation. Is that right, Brian?
Okay, well, we don't normally try to
yeah, we're not gonna agree
mitigate.
on anything
pardon me?
tonight.
Yeah, we don't try to mitigate this in open session. Could we kick it back to you, to the directors and so forth, to take a look at it and see if there's a way that it can be handled?
There's no objection on city staff part to the vacation. But we think that it needs to go back to the start, just so that in case anything's been done since 2016, that it won't be missed and that they could be vacated at that time.
Okay, well, maybe you guys could get together and
All right, we'll
figure
sit
out-
down and talk and see if.
figure out a way to get it settled and solved. We don't,
We've waited long enough.
understood. I understand your concern. Thank you for coming out to the meeting. We appreciate it. Okay.
I have an item that's not on the agenda.
You've already had yours. What's your item? Okay, what is your item?
May I approach?
Yes?
Thank you. Thank you. Hi, Brian Strauser again on 53rd Street. I apologize. I was not aware of the 3-minute rule. I know about it now. Reference variance request, BA 2202. My wife and I requested a variance to extend our side yard to store an RV by constructing a fence. We completed the application in full,
This
paid the
is-
required fees, a BOA hearing
Okay,
was held.
all right. Please stop. Yes?
This is an item that is currently scheduled before the Board of Adjustment. I'm not sure that all the Board of Adjustment members are listening to this, but we do have one here who shouldn't be hearing things that the other board
I'm
members
sorry, I
are
have to
not
stop you,
hearing.
Mr. Strasser. Okay. Procedurally, it's improper, it's incorrect. Okay? So we will not you will not be permitted to continue
Well, I have a
discussion.
request of the city council. If it's because the BOA members are here, could they volunteer to leave? Thank you. Very kind.
But we don't know whether others are listening
No.
on their television or not,
That
so this is
it's a fair point.
inappropriate.
No, we cannot continue with this under advice of our council. So thank you very much, and proceed, follow this
love
up.
to proceed. I would
We'll
love to.
follow this up with the proper procedures through the Board of Adjustment.
I
Thank
have,
you.
and that
Thank
brings
you.
me to you
Okay.
guys. It's in light
We're
of,
done, we're done here. We're
Pam
done.
said
I'm
that-
sorry, I have to stop you.
Yeah,
Okay,
I understand
there
that.
could be other people listening, and it creates issues.
I understand.
Okay?
But there's no reason to.
Thank you very much.
Take that advice.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you for your time. Okay, with no other business, I believe we are adjourned.